Trump keeps doubling down. He says, Nancy Pelosi is a mess. Again, all of this may be true. Nancy Pelosi is a mess. Yesterday, I played a clip of her on my radio show in which she is utterly inarticulate. It sounds like she's doing a Dadaist poem from the 1930s with some jazz music in the background. She's not speaking in complete sentences. But I am a podcast and radio host. I'm not the president who has to get reelected. Here's President Trump going after Nancy Pelosi again.
Well, they're being very nice to her because they really, she's a mess. Look, let's face it, she doesn't understand it. And they sort of feel she's disintegrating before the rush. She does not understand it. They want to have her understand it before it's finished. It's signed, as you know. Mexico's approved the deal. Canada's approved the deal. And they're waiting to get a signal for her. Pelosi does not understand the bill. She doesn't understand it. Even though unions are in favor of it, farmers, everybody just about is in favor of it.
Okay, and then he concludes this little riff, which went on for many, many minutes in the middle of this press conference with the farmers standing behind going, oh my God. Trump concluded this. I mean, this all goes under bad Trump, honestly. Like, there's good Trump and bad Trump in my good Trump, bad Trump matrix. This is all bad Trump. Not because it's morally evil or anything. The president has said some very immoral things. Nothing he's saying here is immoral, but it is ill-advised at the extreme level of ill-advised. And then Trump finishes with his favorite line. He says he's an extremely stable genius. This is like when people tell you they're exorbitantly wealthy or incredibly brilliant. When people have to tell you, they very often are not. And when the president, when's the last time you told your friends that you were an extremely stable genius? Here's the president of the United States doing that yesterday.
For whatever reason, you'll explain this to me. I always got a lot of publicity. So if I said something, even as a private builder or whatever I was doing at the time, I would get a lot of publicity and without a lot of trying. And I was against certain things. But if you look and you take a look back, you'll see all of the things that you're talking about and all of the things that you're asking about, I was against at that time. And I'm still against. I haven't changed very much. Been very consistent. I'm an extremely stable genius.
Okay, and obviously he's saying that a little bit tongue-in-cheek because the president is a stand-up comedian, but that then opens the door to Nancy Pelosi doing this. So Nancy Pelosi then tweets at the president about the extremely stable genius line. She says, when the extremely stable genius starts acting more presidential, I'll be happy to work with him on infrastructure, trade, and other issues. Now, this is supremely cynical from Nancy Pelosi. She's not interested in working with Trump on anything. Her entire goal here is to drag Trump into this fight, to get under his skin, to make him crazy. That's what she's trying to do here. And this move where she says, I pray for him. He needs an intervention. He's engaged in a cover-up. And then as soon as Trump comes back at her and says that she's a mess, then it's, well, I was happy to work with him. But then he decided that he wasn't going to work with me. That routine from Nancy Pelosi, it's really galling and it's really perturbing. But with all of that said, is it smart for President Trump to jump into a personal catfight with Nancy Pelosi when here's the thing, the image that he needs to propagate from now until Election Day is of, if not an extremely stable genius, an extremely stable person, or at least a stable person, right? The entire Democratic pitch is Trump is too crazy. The economy is good right now. On foreign policy, we're heading in the right direction. Democrats must create the image that the president cannot be trusted with power because he's a crazy person. And thus, you must hand it over to old Joe, slow old Joe. You remember old Joe. That's really their campaign. They should make their campaign slogan, Democratic campaign slogan 2020. You remember old Joe. That's the entire pitch. I've been saying for years, the Democratic campaign was going to be the 1920 Warren G. Harding campaign, a return to normalcy. That was Warren G. Harding, the Republican Party's pitch in 1920. Woodrow Wilson had lost it. He was senile at that point, and the Democratic Party had followed him so far down the chute that Woodrow Wilson's wife effectively governed the country as president of the United States in the middle of Woodrow Wilson's senility as of 1919. And so Republicans said, okay, we just want normal. How about normal again? That's what Democrats are trying to do. In order to make that happen, they have to portray the president as abnormal. The president should not be helping them out in this quest. And yet, the president's counterpunching tendencies lead him to do the wrong thing.